which low-speed maneuver in a big truck can be the most difficult, the most dangerous, and the hardest to master? Hello, I'm Vicki Simons with TruckDriversMoneySavingTips.com. Tonight I'm going to be talking about backing up a big rig. And I'm going to be taking some of the information from 3 different pages of our website, and I hope that you're going to get a great deal of value from what I'm going to be sharing tonight. It is a very big situation in trucking for a lot of drivers, and I'm going to be addressing a number of different aspects of this. All right, so starting with some of the information on our backup page, the most difficult trucking maneuver for many is how to back up a truck safely. All right, there are several different backing situations, and I describe these on the page. Okay, first you have the straight line backing, the 90-degree alley docking, and the offset alley docking. All right, all backing and docking situations that drivers of dry vans and refrigerator vans encounter involve the movement of the truck and trailer in which the driver has the vehicle in reverse gear. And of course, there may be more than one reverse gear on your truck, so just be aware of that. All right, so because of the dimensions of the vehicle and the driver's inability to see the far end of the trailer from his or her seat unless he or she has a backup truck cam installed, all right, the driver may be more prone to being involved in a backing accident. And of course, that's why I'm recording this, so that you will be aware of these things and hopefully avoid being involved in a backing accident. So the straight line backing is obviously the easiest, but you still need to be aware that you can back up too far in a hole, and I'll get into that in just a little bit with respect to too far back. And the 90-degree alley docking is the one that I had the most difficulty mastering when I was in truck driver training school. And there's a little bit of a history there. I'll talk about that in just a bit. Obviously, you cannot back up any sort of articulated vehicle that has more than one trailer. Okay, if you have doubles or triples, you can't back that up. Okay, because you don't have the ability to predict where that is going to be going. You'll have a jackknife situation on your hands. When you're turning the steering wheel to the left in an articulated vehicle, that is a tractor with one trailer behind it, okay, the trailer moves to the right, and when you turn the steering wheel to the right, the trailer moves to the left, okay, and that is one of those situations that can be even tricky for those who are pulling recreational vehicles with a fifth wheel or even a boat behind you. All right, same situation applies. All right, the situation that I'm talking about could be completely different when the trailer's tandems are at different places on the trailer. The truck may have to back up in tight quarters, such as in a small truck stop, and where there are impeding objects that must be avoided, such as a concrete post or a wall. All right, and some shippers actually have what's called a 45-degree alley docking, which it can be even trickier than 90 degrees because it's kind of like halfway between a straight line and halfway between a 90-degree alley docking. Now, for those drivers who have a day cab with a window in the back, it can be a little bit easier, especially if you're pulling a flatbed trailer. When Mike was with local trucking job that he had, a flatbed that he hauled, he rarely had to actually back the truck in. All right, but when we were in truck driver training school, those students who came down from North Carolina and had to take their CDL road test in the state of North Carolina, at least as of that time in the early 1990s, they actually had to learn how to practice parallel driving, parallel parking as well. So that was a situation unto itself. We didn't have to worry about that here in South Carolina. But anyway, the offset alley docking presents challenges of its own. All right, when it comes to a backing situation at a shipper's or receiver's location, as a general rule, they don't care how long it takes you to back up into the dock, just as long as you get in there. The situation can be different at a truck stop when you have traffic moving back and forth around you all the time and there's a continual stream of traffic. All right, it's wise. The driver is wise when he or she knows when a situation is beyond his or her ability to get into the hole or to negotiate. All right, and we talk about that on this one page here. All right, once Mike had to back up into a construction zone near a hospital in the Midwest, he had to be concerned not only with the side-to-side movement of the truck, but also an overhead clearance. And that raises a whole nother issue when you talk about what's called under blunders. Okay, when there's something above you that you need to be watching out for. It's not just the back end on one side or the other of the truck, but also what's going to hit as far as the roof or the ceiling of the trailer is concerned. So always be on your guard against that. We once had to make a pickup inside a cave in Independence, Missouri, and the backing area was so tight that we were told that we had to enter the cave from one direction only. We couldn't go in from the other, and obviously that was true. We ended up seeing that for ourselves, how that worked. The only time that we've ever had to back up a rig inside a building was in New York when we drove for Swift. That was our first company. The dock lines were clearly marked, and there was pretty good pulling up room, but it was a little dark in there. And for the life of him at that time, Mike just could not seem to back up the truck, even though I had placed a flashlight along the left line, so that on the driver's side of the truck, that flashlight literally illuminated that line where he needed to do it. So anyway, that being said, even though I had not had any backing experience, because Mike is usually the one who was doing the backing for us, I was able to get it put in the dock, and I felt pretty good about that. All right, so women do tend to be good truck drivers and good backer-uppers. All right, so I'll talk about a situation that I learned how to do backing up in different situations every time. All right, just whatever it is. If it was possible for me to get in the hole, I was able to do it every time. All right, so Mike also had a situation when he had to make a late night delivery in Charlotte, North Carolina at a bank building. And the situation required him to back across a well-traveled downtown street, and he actually had to call for law enforcement to block the traffic for him so that he could make that turn into the building. So realize, drivers, when you're doing backing, when you need help. Okay, in this particular case, he needed law enforcement. All right. Mike also had a situation where he had to do a reverse serpentine type of a backing situation down into the Bell South building in downtown Atlanta. I was his eyes on the ground helping him do that backing in. So always know when you need the extra help. Okay, sometimes other drivers will be willing to help you, but you need to also be prepared to get out and look. Okay, it doesn't matter how many times you have to get out and look. Just make sure that you don't back into something. And speaking of that, Mike had a situation when he was driving for Schneider. He was backed in the center of his hole in a truck stop. It was a bright orange truck that he was driving, and he was under a light. So there should have been no guesswork, but anyway, another truck backed into him, and he felt that rocking, okay, when something hit his truck. All right, so you want to always get out and look. The driver who backed into him eventually did come back and say, I think I hit your truck. So backing accidents are preventable, and the key to successful backing is to knowing where your vehicle is in proximity to other objects at all times. Get out and look every time you need to. All right. Among the most aggravating things that can happen to a driver, although it is expensive, is when he is parked in a spot and someone backs into him, as I mentioned. All right. I'm looking through the information here. Depending upon the situation, you may be ticketed or fined in addition to having to make repairs or pay for repairs on another vehicle. We have seen so many situations. If you've ever seen a truck that has on the outside of the trailer where there's a ding, okay, where there's something that's been pooched up, where the side of the trailer is literally been, it's possible that what happened was the driver tried to take that around a concrete post and literally just scraped it wide open. All right, so I talk also about parking too far back in your tractor trailer, and there are two different kinds of parking too far back. One is where you're parking too far back in the hole and you hit something like a concrete post. The other is where I talk about parking too far back in a truck stop or some other place where you are in a reduced lighting situation, okay, and you could end up getting into some trouble when you're isolated like that. All right, let me go down through the CDL road test page from our website. I've got these printed out, different parts of a CDL road test, but I'm going to be going down specifically to the part talking about the backing. When we were in truck driver training school in the early 1990s, at the time we began, the only tractor trailers that they had there were manual steering. They had no power steering in them whatsoever. And I'm a small person, okay? I'm not a big burly guy, and it was everything I could do to literally pull that steering wheel around to the left or the right, because it was, you know, it was a truck, and it was a manual steering type of truck. So I talked about the situation where this particular truck, we nicknamed her Big Bertha. Okay, Big Bertha. I was so busy fighting Big Bertha's steering wheel that I was unable to look in the mirrors or aim the truck correctly as I was backing. And all I heard from the instructors on the ground, and this was in truck driver training school, was to turn the steering wheel hard to the left or hard right. Hard left, hard right. Okay, and that's what they were yelling, okay? And of course, by the time I pulled the steering wheel around to the hard left, it was too far, and the hard right was too far. And obviously, you know, when you're doing that sort of thing, you rarely need to pull it all the way hard left or hard right. So finally, when we got a power steering, that was a lot better. Okay, I was actually able to maintain control of the wheel and actually look to see what was happening in the mirrors. All right, so I want to talk about the situation that happened when, and this was before I get to the situation about how I learned to do this. The way that it works in South Carolina, and this may happen in other states around the country, is that when you're going through your CDL road test, you have to pass every section in order to go on to the next one. So if you fail the backing part of your CDL road test, you're not going to go any farther. It stops right there. All right. So when when we were going through this, and you got to understand, this is when I was, I wouldn't say timid, but much more reserved than I am now. I wasn't used to speaking up as much as I am now about certain things. But I realized that I needed to have more time on the range learning how to do the 90-degree alley docking. And I finally mustered up the courage to let somebody know. And about that time, there was a new instructor who came into the truck driver training school, and he had the nickname of Shorty. And so he realized that some of us were having difficulty with our 90-degree alley docking, and he gave the best advice I have ever received about backing a truck. And I've talked about this on our page on our website, and I'm going to share it with you now. Okay, and the secret is, and this is a quote, "Follow your tandems, they'll never lead you wrong." Follow your tandems, they'll never lead you wrong. And by that, he meant that a driver needs to angle his or her truck based on the position of the trailer's tandem tires. And to those of you who've been driving a truck for a long time, this comes as sort of second nature to you, or common sense, but to the newbies like us, it was news, and it really helped us. And part of the trick of doing a 90-degree alley docking is knowing at what point the rear of the trailer will meet the dock. All right, one does not want to ram the dock. Okay, and for someone who's not familiar with the length of a commercial trailer, knowing when to stop backing can be difficult. He or she knows that the backboard, as in when you're taking your CDL road test, you know that the backboard's back there, okay, but how far back there is it? And so I'm going to share with you a little story here. This is true. This really happened to me. One day after long, hard work on the range, I backed the truck into the 90-degree alley docking situation toward the backboard, and I thought I had backed up far enough and pulled the brakes. All right, and there's this real sensitive thing where you don't want to get too far, and you don't want to get too, okay, you don't want to go where there's too short. Okay, you want to make sure that you're within enough room from that backboard in order to be able to make it. So I climbed down out of the truck after I pulled the brakes, and I walked toward the back of the trailer and the backboard. Now I realized that if you were to move that backboard back, you automatically failed your CDL road test. So like I said, I pulled the brakes, got down out of the truck, and the trailer, the trucking instructor there, the truck driver training school instructor, Shorty, he was on the ground watching what I was doing, obviously, and so he said, "Get out of that truck." And I looked at I'm looking at the backboard there, and I said, "Well, what's wrong with it?" And he said, "There's nothing wrong with it. That's beautiful." I had learned how to do that, all right? And with a little bit more practice, I felt confident about being able to do this when I went for my CDL road test, all right? And it was also Shorty's teaching that helped Mike master the 90-degree alley docking. And I might add that when Mike went to when Mike and the other two guys that were in the truck with him went to go get their CDL the first time, none of them got it because they all failed that 90-degree alley docking. All right, so I ended up getting my CDL before he did, and there's a little funny story there about what happened when we got back to the truck driver training school. There's also some stuff about not disqualifying yourself on the little things on your CDL road test, which don't have anything to do with backing. But you want to make sure, drivers, that you are doing what you need to do in order to make sure that you are safe at all times. I'm going to give a money-saving tip here in a moment about the CDL road test. For those of you who need this information. But let me also say, if you've gotten value from this, if this has been valuable to you, would you please give likes, shares, and hearts? That would mean a lot. And also, if you have any questions or concerns about that, please feel free to leave a comment either under the video or get in touch with us through our website, TruckDriversMoneySavingTips.com. Okay, so if when you're in truck driver training school, you're assigned to drive a truck where the seat, mirror, and other settings don't adjust correctly, all right, speak up and let your instructor know. And if there's something that you don't understand, you're shortchanging yourself by not asking questions. Make sure that you understand each aspect of what's required during the CDL road test and that you're able to master each skill. That's what you're paying your instructors for, is so that you have what you need to know in order to get the road test done, get your CDL in place, and get yourself a good trucking job. All right? When you're out on the road, you're going to come across all different kinds of backing situations, drivers. We've had a lot of different kinds, and I'm sure we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of the different kinds of backing situations out there. Every backing situation is slightly different, which is why you need to follow Shorty's advice about follow your tandems, they'll never lead you wrong. Okay, that's classic advice right there. Okay, that being said, not seeing any questions or comments right now, I will add that, again, if you need to, get out and look. Don't back into something. Don't make some sort of an accident. Let's put it this way. If it takes you an extra 15 or 20 minutes to get into a hole because you parked, you've gotten out, you've literally walked around to the back of the trailer, you come back in and you're doing a little bit, be aware that is money well invested versus the cost of having some sort of a fine or a ticket or, some sort of a damaged, damage to your own rig or damage to whatever it is that you backed into. Okay? There are certain docks that have these things that project out from the dock. Okay? If you ram into one of those things and you damage the back end of your trailer, it's going to be costly to fix that. So consider the time to be an investment to help you save money in the long run. Okay? This is Vicki Simons with TruckDriversMoneySavingTips.com. Wishing you, on behalf of my husband Mike and I, safe travels and lots of money-saving opportunities on the road. Have a great night. Thanks.